Hey everyone, we are back, this time with a special update. And by we, of course, I mean, with me as always is Corey. Say hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And by special, I mean that this is also to celebrate the fact that we've recently crossed the 2,000 subscriber threshold on YouTube. So thanks everyone very much who did subscribe. And if you do like the projects we're working on and the content we create, then please do consider liking and subscribing because it really does help us. We're really looking forward to eventually being able to go back into making more content and do things like tutorials for game making in general and pixel art especially, and it really helps. Eventually we're even going to do live streams on occasion, and the bigger we can get our following, the more successful that can be and the more time we can dedicate to that sort of stuff. And come to think of it, if you are new to the channel because you started watching these videos specifically for the updates on Damon Claw, we have for several years now been creating content that you might find pretty interesting and entertaining. We have, in particular, a series called Forensic Pixology, where Corey and myself, two longtime professional pixel artists, kind of analyze and discuss a lot of classic games and discuss different techniques and different decisions that the artists and art directors and game designers might have been making that affected how the game eventually looked. And of course, because we're mostly focusing on real retro pixel art, there's also a lot of discussion about the technical constraints of the particular platforms like the Megadrive and the 8-bit Nintendo that also very much affected the kind of choices that the artists could make and how they worked around or within those limitations. So I'm sure future Mike will have added a little link now while I'm talking, so if that kind of stuff might interest you, give it a try. And before we jump right into the Damon Claw update, since this is a kind of special celebration video, after the Damon Claw update, if you're interested, you can see the other projects that we have mostly on hold until we're done fulfilling these initial Damon Claw versions for the Kickstarter. So we'll show you some other projects that you might find interesting, and then after that we'll show you the other project that Neofid, who are making the Megadrive version of Damon Claw, are also working on. So stay tuned for that. So now let's just dive right into Damon Claw. And one of the things we did, as you could see on the screen, if you remember, this is the intermission scene that happens between levels, and there are two things that are going to change between the levels, and that is the object you got from the boss you just defeated, and then the other thing that's going to change is the environment that the player character is walking through, that the wizard sees through the crystal ball. And so I've finished the different environment pieces that scroll through. The important thing is I've made all that art for all of the intermissions. What I did not finish yet was the art for all of the other objects you get for the bosses, but Corey and I did work out their designs. I roughed them in. And another big piece of news is as we get closer and closer to the delivery of the Megadrive version of Damon Claw, I recently managed to find a very good additional pixel artist that we're contracting. We're letting him do some of the cleanup and some animations for some of the remaining basic enemies and stuff like that. And that's been going smoothly. So basically I've done rough pixel art sketches of these objects. The thing I did first was I created this variant of the environment and wizard with that object gone so that I could sketch in the other objects, and I could give this as a clean background layer for the other artist to use if he needs to erase some pixels. Like if he erases, it'll erase to this exact background like it's supposed to. If that makes sense. I'm getting kind of technical, but the point is they're designed, they're roughed in pixel art, and the other artists will be cleaning them up while we focus on the really important final stuff we need to design, like the environment for the final level and boss fight and the final boss himself. And sticking on the pixel art topic, Corey, why don't you recap what you've been working on lately?
Yeah, I'm continuing work on the bosses. Other than the final boss, we had a lot more boss work for levels 2 and 3 and 4. And basically, we've got all of the designs set for all the bosses, and 2.5 are fully animated. I would say
Awesome.
maybe the third boss I would call mostly animated, but there's, obviously some touch-up and cleanup work there.
Right.
So yeah, and the fourth boss is well underway. So that's where I'm at with that. I don't want to talk about it too much. Want you guys to have some nice surprises when you play.
Exactly. Basically, the way it worked, and I think I mentioned this in previous videos, we needed to make sure Neofid had stuff to work with as quickly as possible so they could bounce back and forth and get the functionality working for all of these boss fights as early as possible. So we just gave them very rough placeholder art, which meant not only would we obviously eventually have to do the real art and animations, but that meant until recently, the final look of these bosses was not established. So that was the first step Corey took, was to actually finalize the design of them in usually like an idle pose. And from that point on, once we really liked the design, then he would go through and actually create all the real animations. They're all looking great, but yeah, we won't spoil those. We'll make sure that people see those once the game is released, or at least much closer to release time.
Absolutely.
And sticking on the topic of art, but now going to a much higher resolution, as you guys know, I've been working on the illustrations for not only the box art, but also the 6 collectible trading cards that will be coming with the boxed versions for the Kickstarter. So I've now got all of them to about 98% complete. Future Mike is going to edit in a little sliver of one of the cards as a teaser, but we're going to keep those also spoiler-free for people that actually get the boxed editions and are doing unboxing videos, or just when they get them, I want them to be just like with the game. We want there to be some surprises in the physical packages as well. So, but they're mostly done. I did also reconnect with the local expert of that particular card game that some people play, that we're hoping to make the cards compatible with, so that people that are familiar with that game and that rules, they could actually use these cards in the same sort of way. And he saw the fairly close to finished illustrations and got very excited, and he's working now on basically what kind of wording and symbols and all that kind of stuff and numbers would need to be on the cards to make them work and make them make sense with the character descriptions that I gave him. So that is also in the works. Corey and I also have continued to take little nibbles away at the work we need to do for the printed manual that's going to come with the physical version of all the games, and that's also shaping up really well. We have the design completely worked out, and there is just some art assets that need to be replaced. They're kind of done pretty quickly as placeholder bitmap graphics, and they need to be turned into nice clean vector graphics, and that'll be the final art design work we need to do, at which point it's just going to be copy and pasting the text we wrote into each page and arranging whatever graphics and fonts accordingly. But the text is something like 80 to 90% done, and the design work is also right around there. It's just going to be the kind of more menial monkey work, so to speak, of just putting everything where it needs to go per page. But so that's also in good shape. And now on to progress on the Neofid specific side for the Megadrive. I've just been playing as much as possible, like I will say in every video, because it's always the case. Whenever I need a break from something else, I just play the build and make, they're called tickets, bugs that need to be fixed or things that need to be tweaked to make the gameplay as fun as possible. And Neofid is doing a great job burning through those tickets quite quickly. And on top of that, more importantly, obviously, there's still stuff that is not in the game at all yet. It just hasn't been implemented. And they're making very good progress with that. The last thing that they just finished, they got the full functionality in now for the 3rd level boss. So they just gave me a new build actually earlier today for that. So I'm going to be playing through that as soon as I'm done editing this video, play through that as much as I can, and just make all the notes for the little final tweaks and changes to make the gameplay actually good and to make sure they didn't miss anything in the kind of core functionality of things. And similarly, of course, this whole time Corey will be playing builds and looking for ways to further polish or tweak or finish the art that's still placeholder. Now, like it's always great to be able to see it working in game and then make your final edits, because you could really perfect it based on how it needs to behave and communicate in the actual full scenario of the gameplay. And one more cool bit of information on the Neo Geo side of things, things are picking up. There was an other previous project that coder also had to be working on up until now that he's wrapped up. And so what he's done very recently is updated the Damon Claw code that, you know, a lot of programmers do this. It's a very smart thing to do. Every time you make a game, you basically collect the improvements to the code base of the previous products and you build on top of them. So basically, he went back and he updated the code he had done so far on Damon Claw for Neo Geo to take full benefit of the optimizations he made while wrapping up that other project. So basically, the code base for the Neo Geo side of things has been improved, and now that he's kind of caught up with the enhancements to his overall code base, he's now back into the full swing of implementing new things, and like he's really spent the last few days digging into our now much more robust design document, watching gameplay videos, replaying the updated demo of the PC version we gave him. Damon Claw is his full focus now for the duration until the Neo Geo version is done. And if you recall from the Kickstarter, that always had several more months built into it. A lot of those months we will get on our side, Corey and myself, we'll get to dedicate a lot of that time onto just adding the things and tweaking the things that'll make the Neo Geo version special and specific to the strengths of that platform. So obviously making sure there's extra color, extra objects on screen, and of course the second selectable character is different for each platform. So we've already got a really strong concept for the second playable character for the Neo Geo version, which not only will be very different from Gareth, the second playable character on Megadrive, but also will really have a great excuse built into the concept to really show off the, 2D graphics power of the Neo Geo. So that's the other big thing we'll be focusing on as soon as all of the critical stuff of the Megadrive version is wrapped up and we're just doing a lot of testing and polishing. We'll have time to really start implementing some of the things on the Neo Geo side that are specific to that system. And that's about it for Damon Claw now, so let's actually move over and show you some of the other projects that if you're new to us via the Damon Claw Kickstarter, you might not even know about yet. So this is our website, and Corey noticed just moments ago that we need to update this banner for the Kickstarter. You can't back it now, so...
I forgot that text was there. Yeah,
but there are ways to pre-order the Megadrive version and stuff like that. So we can update this sometime soon to those kind of links. But also this is a really convenient spot. If you want to find us and link up with us on any of our social media accounts, this is a really easy way to do it here up at the top. And then so let's just talk about some of our other game projects. That obviously is Damon Claw, as you're all very familiar with. But there are some other ones that you might not know about. I can actually scroll through it here. So the other project that's the most far along is Metro Siege, which hopefully you can tell, very much inspired by games like Final Fight and especially Streets of Rage 2. I grew up with an older brother who I loved playing games with, but especially beat-em-ups were always my favorite genre. So I basically, as the core design, the core concept for Metro Siege, it was just all about taking the most fun aspect of, we played over the years probably about 98% of all of the existing beat-em-ups and all the retro systems and arcade consoles. I just took what I liked most about all of them and kind of got rid of or tweaked the things that I found frustrating in some of them and put it all together in a cohesive way as possible that I could. The other core concept to Metro Siege, for me it was really important to not just go back and get influence from the classic beat-em-up arcade and console games, but to go back to what actually influenced them as well. And that was the late 80s, early 90s vigilante Hollywood movies.
Right.
And so I really want to bring back some of that element to Metro Siege or to beat 'em up games in general. And I do not mean at all making Metro Siege one of those games where you're watching cinematic scenes and pushing buttons instead of actually playing. But there's a way to just introduce levels and introduce boss fights and transition from level to level that just has a more cinematic feeling to it. And that's what we're going for. It's something that does not postpone or block you from the gameplay at any, because obviously it's meant to be a high action, adrenaline pumping action game. So we're doing this, we're introducing these cinematic storytelling events and kind of camera moves and stuff like that in a way that does not slow down or impede the gameplay. So that's Metro Siege. And another project that we've got on the back burner is Cyberjack, which we actually started quite a while ago for PCs, but if you can tell, this is actually designed so that it could be made to work on the 8-bit Nintendo, which is something we'd love to do. So if you're watching and you're a very skilled and capable NES developer, and you might want to in the future collaborate with us to make a real version of Cyberjack that runs on an 8-bit Nintendo, we would love that. So please contact us. It's just classic style gameplay. In general, it's a semi-futuristic, hence the name Cyberjack, and the the kind of retro futuristic stylings of these enemy robots, and this there was an unfinished portrait there. But it's just high action gameplay, somewhat along the lines of a Mega Man and Ninja Gaiden kind of mixed together. And even DuckTales, if you're noticing that kind of pogo action that like what Scrooge does with his walking stick. But you can see there I've got some fun gameplay mechanics, like you can crash the glass, break the glass that the characters are standing on and make them fall in, and that triggers bombs that you can blow up your enemies. All kinds of fun stuff. I'm going to make sure Future Mike splices in the boss fight footage also right about now, because we really like how that turned out. This is the moment leading up to the boss fight. But anyway, that's about it for Cyberjack for now. And then finally, it's not been added to our website yet, but there's another project called Aeon's Legend, which will be the first project that we actually developed with the Scorpion engine in cooperation with Eric Holgan or Pixel Glass Studio, which will run probably by then when we can get to it. It'll be for not only modern systems, but Megadrive, classic Amiga computers, and Neo Geo. So we're really excited to just have access to be able to create games for those classic awesome systems. And Scorpion Engine is just an amazing kind of a revelation in retro game development that really is going to empower, and already is, a lot of creative people to have access to making real retro games that just would not have been possible before. There are only so many real hardcore programmers willing to make your game for you. So that was always the big bottleneck. If you were a creative person, a pixel artist, a game designer, and you wanted to make a retro game, there was that huge bottleneck. And Scorpion Engine is drastically changing that, which is really awesome for people like us that are much more capable on the creative art and game design side, but could not possibly have the time and energy on top of everything else to also learn how to do hardcore C and assembly programming and hardware banging for a bunch of different classic systems. So very exciting stuff. I'm sure Future Mike will have worked in footage of Aeon's Legend there, so you could see what kind of game that is as well. Alright, that's it for our projects. So as I said, if you see here on Indiegogo, Neofid, the guys that are making the Megadrive version of Damon Claw, they're taking one of the 2 previous games they made. In fact, this was their first game they ever made for the Mega Drive. They're making a new enhanced version for both Game Boy Advanced and Neo Geo, and it's definitely worth a look if you like Damon Claw, or if you've backed these games in the past, or just in general like side-scrolling action games. Not only was the game always quite well regarded and a great quality and fun game, but some of these enhancements they're making are really impressive. Obviously for the GBA, they're working in a lot of great translucent effects and cool stuff like that. But they've balanced the overall gameplay. I think they've even added some new abilities and kind of agility, mobility, and combat skills to the character. One thing I thought was really cool is now there is a counter attack move here that the playable character can do with a well-timed... I don't know how you initiate it button-wise. I didn't read it carefully or play the demo yet. There is also a playable demo available, I'm pretty sure now. So definitely check them out. Check out this Indiegogo and their website. And yeah, this game, the original version, is still available for... I think it's on almost everything now, like Steam, Switch, Mega Drive. So if you're a collector and like these kinds of games, it's definitely worth taking a look. And there are 7 days left. Well, by the time I get this video out, probably 6 days left to the campaign. So please do consider backing. And that's about it for this video. Thanks again, as always, very much for watching and your support, for those that backed and for those that liked and subscribed. We really appreciate it.
If you enjoy our content and want to keep up to date on our games, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support our projects, consider becoming a patron. The link's in the description, and we'll see you soon.